A good writer must also be a good reader. So, fellow writers, what have you been reading these days, and what can you learn from it to apply to your own writing? Sam here with another Friday video for you, talking about reading, writing, and just those two, I guess, pretty much. Reviews, I guess, also starts with R. Um, so yeah, let me show you what I've been reading lately, and we can talk about it. I just finished reading The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan. I am reading through the Wheel of Time series. Yes, it's the first time for me. Some people ask me if I someone's always reading it at work, and they're like, have you read it before?" And like, because they've been out for a while, and some people have, but I'm a slow reader, and I didn't get to them when I was younger, so no, this is my first time. I know if I read them when I was younger and I had more free time, I would have probably read them faster and probably enjoyed them more. I'm enjoying them now. It's just like, it's you lose some of your youthful enthusiasm as you get older, and it's hard to get as invested into a series, at least for me. But hey, I'm still enjoying it a lot. I mean, I wasn't sure at first if I'd read them all. I read the first one or two to check it out, and then I was and now I'm on book five, so that shows I am enjoying them enough to continue at least. Um, but it's no small task. If you didn't know, this is a 900-page book, and this is book five, and there's 14 of them that are all about this size. So okay, if I'm gonna finish the series, which I want to eventually, I still got a ways to go. And again, I read slow these days because I'm busy, and that's just how it goes. Less focus, less attention, less time, and and of course, I'm reading other things too. It's not like I'm just reading these books alone. So it's going to take me a while to finish them all, but I hope I will get to. So let me tell you what I liked and didn't like about this one. Book five, in the middle of an epic saga. So how do you describe it without spoiling everything else? So pretty much everyone who's read these books, who I've talked to, my brother is really into them. Actually, both my brothers have read them. One of them read them a long time ago. One of them read them somewhat recently. But again, he reads faster than I do because he has more free time, I guess. Um, so I have brothers who went into them. At least one good friend, and a number of people I've talked to have read them. Everyone says it gets slow somewhere in the middle. That it might start out strong. I'm sure I hear it ends strong. I'm sure it does. Naturally, like all stories, it gets slow somewhere in the middle. And now I'm in the middle. So if you've read them or if you've heard anyone talk about them, you might have different opinions about quite where it gets slow. I felt like I was starting to get slowed down in this book. It was still entertaining. I still enjoyed a lot of it. But there were times I didn't know where the plot was going. And there were times when it's just like, I don't know, it's kind of one episode. I mean, it's still a long episode, but one episode out of 14 installments. It's hard to keep the bigger picture in mind sometimes, and there's just a lot of details to keep track of. Um, the thing about being an ensemble cast, depending on who you count, there's like 5 to 8 main characters. If you've watched the show on Amazon, which I mean, it doesn't obviously it doesn't can't get everything right from the books because the shows never do, and especially when the books are this long, they just can't do everything. But watching the show has helped me a little bit understand the characters in the world a little bit better. Just because again, it's hard to in the books you can miss stuff, but the show can bring it to life more, even if it doesn't do it perfectly. Um, in the show, there's like 5-ish main characters to begin with. 5 young people. The main one is Rand, and then his friends and companions. And if you count like mentors, I mean, like Moiraine and Lan are the magic users who kind of guide them through. Well, Moiraine mostly, and then Lan is like her partner, her warder, he's called. And Elaine has also become a major character. So I'd say there's like 5 to 8 protagonists. Most of them got screen time in this book. One thing that bothered me, and I mean, I understand what kind of I get what this is, but just the fact that it's such a long series with so many cast members and they're all spread out. One of those main characters didn't get any screen time in this book. Perrin is one of them. He's one of Rand's friends. So if you had to guess, he's like one of the top 3 or top 5 main characters. He had a big role in book 4 that I recall. He went back home. Like they had been on this quest. They'd been all over the place. He heard there was trouble back home, like some of the bad guys invading their hometown, and he wanted to check on his family and stuff, which I think is a noble goal. So a big part of the last book was about Perrin going back home and kind of leading the townspeople to stand up against the knights or whatever, or the soldiers or the paladins as they're called, who were bullying them basically. And I was like, that's a cool storyline, and I like Perrin, and he fell in love. He's not the main character, but one of the main characters. Yeah, 900 pages. Perrin didn't show up at all in this book. I was like, come on, I kept waiting for him to come in somewhere in the middle. I mean, I know he switches perspectives sometimes, but there was no Perrin, and I don't even know if he's my favorite. He's, I like the characters now. He's one of my favorites, I guess, but I just wanted to see what was going on with his storyline, and it never happened. So, um, and again, it takes me a long time to read these. So like I'm investing time and energy into this, and I was like, come on, no Perrin, and I'm sure he shows up again in book 6 or sometime soon, but it was just like one whole book without one whole main character. That seems like a lot to wait. I guess what I'm saying is it's a lot. It's a big investment, and I'm sure there is a payoff coming. It doesn't always come right away when you want it. So the question, as writers have to ask ourselves, is how do we hold readers' attention in the middle, even if you're not writing a 14-book epic saga of 1,000 pages total or whatever, or 10,000 pages or whatever. Um, your story still has a middle. Make sure you don't lose your readers in the middle. Yeah, so that's one thing. And honestly, there are just how big it is. It's hard to keep track of all the characters and all the details and who they are. And I mean, I'm sure some of that's me. I mean, again, I don't. My focus is probably less than it used to be, but just trying to keep all the details straight was tricky. And then once in a while, I realized I would miss something. Like for example, um, there's the Queen Morghese and her lover. His name was Gabriel. I'm not sure how you, either Sasha Harji. They were kind of background characters. They didn't have a lot of screen time in the book, but they were or page time as it were. But they were mentioned, and then the Queen's daughter Elaine is becoming a major character. Um, and anyway, at one point, kind of near the end of the book, probably the last 100-ish pages, you hear Morghese is dead. The queen is dead, and then she was killed by her lover. And they were like, and then Rand and the main characters, his friends were like, "Oh, Ravin's at it again." And I was like, "Who's Ravin?" And it turns out the Queen's lover, Gabriel, was actually this one of a member of the Forsaken, who's like these ancient evil wizards who come back to life, or they're immortal or whatever. And some of them have taken on different names in modern time because they're immortal, and they've had different lives and different identities over time. But Gabriel is really Ravin, the evil sorcerer. And I was like, but like they said this, like Rand and his companions said that, like, I knew I should have gone after Ravin when I had the chance. Like they knew that already. Was it ever mentioned before? Probably in this book. I'm not sure. Point is, they knew that, and when I read that Gabriel was really Ravin, I was like, what? I didn't know that. Like, so I'm sure it was in there somewhere, either early on mentioned this book, or maybe established in a previous book. I didn't remember it. But just things like that, where you're like, it's hard to keep track of who's who and what is actually going on. Um, it requires focus. So I mean, this series, I admit, it's not for the faint of heart. I wasn't sure if I would get into it. I'm into it now. I feel like I'm too far to turn back because I'm I care about the characters now. I've read 5 books and I want to know how it ends. But it's a lot to keep track of. So I would just say, as a writer, if you're writing something of the epic scope and proportion, you've got to help your reader out with those things along the way. Okay, so I told you some things that I didn't like, and again, I'm not saying the book is bad. I'm not saying those things like ruin it for me. I'm just saying like you, if you're writing something like this, you've got to help your reader along, and you've got to just understand that people might get lost in there, and either in lost in the details, or either like lost in enthusiasm or something like that. And you've got to keep them interested the whole way through, because I'm sure there are people. I'm sure there are many who read 5 or 6 or however many of these and didn't finish the series because again I'm told it gets slow somewhere in there. I want to finish the series, haven't yet. I'm going slow. I'm sure if the writer were still alive and if they knew about me specifically, they'd be encouraging me to read it faster. He probably would be because that's good for marketing and such. So, how can you keep your readers not only interested in it, but interested enough to keep reading and not be able to wait for it? That's kind of the question. Um, are your readers engaged all the way through? And if there's some slow parts, I mean, every story has slow parts. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it should be action packed, the whole time with no calm down time. But I mean, I just mean even in the slow scenes or whatever, where not much seems to happen, the readers need to be invested in the story. And if they're not, how can you make that happen? Okay. I told you some things I didn't like about it. I'll try to talk about the things I did like about it. I actually mentioned in a couple video a couple weeks ago, just how they portray female characters, and there's a lot of strong female characters. And I don't by strong I don't solely mean tough and warrior like, although there's some of that too, but just like well developed, resourceful, intelligent, just protagonists of their own right. Nynaeve and Elaine are on a mission in this one. That's one of the I guess one of the POV groups, and then Egwene is also a semi-major character who has some screen time here, and Avienda, if you know those names, if you've heard it, you know those names, and so there's a variety of female characters, and they're portrayed well. Like what I'm saying is they're not just cookie cutters, or they're not just sex objects like in some books, or they could be, or they're not just love interests. They're varied and multifaceted and realistic characters, which is great. I wrote another video I did about 2 weeks ago, I think. I mentioned this book. I was reading through it about the topic was about men writing women well, and I'd encourage you to go back and listen to that one too, because I talk about that point more. But that's a high point. I will say in the last 100, I mentioned part of it seems slow, parts of it. In the last maybe 100 pages or so, it did seem like it was picking up. Um, Something I had to say to myself at one point throughout reading this series, I was like, I know it's book five, and I'm still in the first half. Maybe relatively early in the series still, um, and yeah, there's five to eight-ish main characters, and you know, I was like, I don't expect our main heroes to die because most of the time in fantasy and in literature the good guys win. Spoilers. I mean, I'm sure there'll be great costs and great twists and turns and such, but I'm expecting the good guys to win and mostly survive. But I was like, no major character has really died so far. I mean, a few, maybe minor characters I can remember had died, but I was like, no major character has really died so far. That's not true anymore at the end of this book. I will say, okay. Um, and I mean, I'm not saying I wanted any particular character to die, but some did die, or at least appeared to die. Well, okay. I mentioned the queen was dead. She wasn't really a major character. She was. I mean, she's important in the world, but she's not one of the POV characters. Um, Spoilers: she's not actually as dead as she seems. At the very end. So, but she's, you know, her arc has changed. One of the female protagonists ish, one of the women I just named, um, dies in the course of the book, and then or like in the last 100 pages or so, and then through magic that death is undone. Okay, I'm like you're keeping around for now, but we're still seeing cost. And one other major character, um, who I've mentioned by name in this video so far, does die apparently, and I mean, I suspect they might be able to come back, because the death seemed ambiguous to me. And again, there's magic in this world. There's all kinds of ways the person could come back. But as far as the characters are discussing, and as far as the end of the book seems, the character is not back yet. So at least one character apparently has died. I'd say one of the if I'm counting the 5 to 8 major characters, it's one of those who I mentioned. Um, one of them died apparently. Could come back before the end of the series. I don't know yet, but yeah. So I mean, I think that's just like what I'm not saying I need characters to die. I'm not saying. I mean, I've heard some people say that. Say things like that, like your book has too many main characters. I mean, either to me as a writer or maybe other stories too. They were like you have too many main characters. Just kill some of them off. I mean, I've heard people recommend things like that to simplify a story. If that's the point, if that's what you want to do, then yes, one of them is dead now, as of book five. Um, but I'm just saying. I guess what I'm saying is I wanted some things to happen. I wanted the plot to move a little faster, and I wanted to see the cost of this battle they're in. Obviously it takes fighting evil forces, going on great quests, things like that. They take a toll on you, on anyone they would. And we appreciate just generally as readers and story viewers, we like seeing our heroes cheat death and beat the odds and come out victorious. But doesn't always work out that way. And you know, I mean, if I get to the end of book 14 and like no major character has died, I'm gonna feel like a little bit in disbelief. So yeah, there was one major character who apparently died. I suspect she might come back in the series later. Oh, sorry, I realized it was a she. I was trying not to give spoilers. It's Moiraine. Um, it's Moiraine, the magic user, who, I mean, I'm not saying she's similar to like Gandalf, but just in personality, but just in her role as like the magical mentor, the magic user wizard, who kind of guides Rand and the others. She has apparently died again because she's magic and stuff like that. I think she could come back. I think the death seemed ambiguous to me in the book, and I didn't really get she was dead until the other characters started saying like she's dead, and I was like, okay, they all think she's dead. Um, but yeah, she is apparently dead. Does she come back later? If you've read the books, don't tell me because I won't be surprised. Or I mean, if it happens, I won't be super surprised because I'm already saying she could. But you know, I want to know what's going on. But or I don't. I want to receive the story as it's, you know, as it's supposed to be read, not from people telling me. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is there was some action and there was some good character moments and some good like development of, I guess, the plot and the characters in the last. I mean, you know, to some extent throughout the whole book, but definitely in the last 100 pages or so. So it did pick up. It did get to a climax. I would just say, you know, if you're writing a book this long or a series this long, don't let your reader go that long without keeping their interest. Make sure the reader is interested. So I guess that's a takeaway. Some good things in this book for sure. Some imperfect things in this book for sure. I'm still enjoying the series. I still want to read book 6 and hopefully the rest eventually. I just, yeah, that's my takeaway after reading book 5 out of many. So big takeaway, big application right now is keep your reader interested all the way through. They have to be invested in the story, even if it's a slow part, even if it's the middle. You got to keep them invested in the story. Anyway, I've rambled for a while now. I'll let you go. Thanks for listening and watching. Have a good weekend. Keep reading and writing. Bye.